And for those who don't know about the movie Poor Things, it is a film directed by Yorgos Lanthimos. I believe, I don't know which one of his films this is. I think it's maybe his sixth or maybe
I think
his.
so. That
Okay,
number sounds right.
yeah, this is
And like
his.
his fourth English language one, maybe
Yeah,
third.
right.
But yeah, I think it's his sixth film.
Okay, so this is his sixth film, and it's basically a reimagining of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. The film follows Bella Baxter, who is the work of Godwin Baxter. And the movie basically is like a coming of age film for Bella as she kind of like comes to her own and kind of like comes into the world. And I'm going to be very honest. When I saw the trailer for this movie, of course, I had no idea what was going on. But then again, it's Yorgos Lanthimos, and I was like, "This is gonna be weird. This is gonna be
Yeah.
strange. This is gonna be a little, out of the box." Because that's what he does. That's his films. Like, I've watched
Hmm.
most of his movies, and I enjoy his work, so I know he's gonna like it. And I remember when like I went to go see it, the movie, in a movie theater. There were people walking out because I do think that some
Really?
people were only there for Emma Stone, and they don't, and they
And they
didn't
thought they were
know.
gonna go see like an Emma Stone like period drama or something.
And that's one thing that annoys me
Okay.
a little bit about. I don't know if this is some new moviegoers, but there seems to be like this rise of moviegoers that watch movies but don't do any research beforehand. Like the people who didn't know that Wonka was a prequel, or people who didn't know that Mean Girls was going to be a musical, when it would take you 2 minutes to look that up and then find that out. So you go see Poor Things just because Emma Stone is there, but you don't want to like Google and maybe be like, oh, this is a director. What has he
Mm.
done before? That way I have
Right.
some idea of what I'm walking into. And like the trailer didn't give any information. And I didn't get any information for the trailer. But I
Right.
know Yorgos Lanthimos is a little freak. So I knew I wasn't going to go see a normal movie.
There may have also been some people walking out because there is a lot of sex in it, and
Yeah,
that was one of the things that a lot of people had a lot of objections to.
oh
I
yeah,
personally did not
broadly.
have an issue with it, but I understand the people having issues. But I could see like if you thought you were going to see an Emma Stone period pick
Uh
with
huh.
like really whimsical costuming
Mm.
and she's fucking a lot. Like you could be like, maybe this isn't for me. I don't think I ever have walked out of a movie. That feels a little pointed, a little weird, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I could see people maybe leaving because of that too.
Yeah. What were your initial thoughts when you went to see Poor Things?
I absolutely loved Poor Things. I am a Yorgos stan. And I actually think I in preparation for this I rewatched The Lobster as well. And I actually think Poor Things isn't even as weird as The Lobster. That is a weird movie. But it's like obviously like visually probably his most out there film. It's I don't know what the design was based on, but it seems like it's pulling a lot from the Spanish artist Gaudi.
Mm.
Like everything kind of a little bit melting, and the buildings kind of look like his architectural designs in Spain. So everything looks weird, but it is like a pretty standard Odyssey and like
Mm-hmm.
coming of age structurally. I fucking loved it.
Mm-hmm.
I loved that it was okay. Let's explore what a Frankenstein film would be if Frankenstein was a woman, and then
Mm-hmm.
obviously like immediately the first thing that comes up is like all of the men around her are going to sexualize and try to possess this woman who has no kind of like uh concept of the world, which like this the second that occurred to me like early in the film, um uh when I think the character is
Yeah.
Max Candles is
Max.
introduced, and he says what a pretty arsler. I was like, oh, now I'm stressed out. This whole movie is going to be uh men trying to take advantage of this woman,
Yeah.
which it is, but
Mm-hmm.
I found the execution of it very satisfying. It is what we're going to talk about today. It is
Mm-hmm.
kind of a not a subversion, I would think, but like a deeper exploration of the like born sexy yesterday trope. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it looks at that trope in a way that centers her. The thing that like I think defines that trope very often, born sexy yesterday, is when there is a woman in an adult woman's body and she has a childlike brain, usually because she's like an alien or a mermaid or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So she doesn't know the world, and like a man can come along and like help her discover the world, and because he's like such a good man and the first man she meets in this new world, like
Yeah.
she falls in love with him and blah 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 blah. um Max Candles, I think, is supposed to be like um the insert of like that character in this.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that he doesn't like her actualization, her self-actualization is all self-guided. Like
Mm-hmm.
she goes out into the world, she goes on an odyssey.
Yeah.
She chooses she makes every choice for herself.
Mm-hmm.
Um and actually my only my only like kind of like disappointment with the film was the fact that like Max's character um still kind of like stays with her, and they're like very good friends at the end, because I was like I want all these men out of her life. But I really really enjoyed it. I
Yeah.
understand some of the people who are put off by it, because like a big part of her journey of self-actualization, like one of the first things she discovers is like her body and
Yeah.
like the and sexual desire, and
Mm-hmm.
she having no concept of the world, like goes out and seeks that. And so she has a lot of sex with a lot of different people, and for a while she works as a sex worker. And I know why that was off-putting to a lot of people. I think in some in some ways it's supposed to be somewhat
Mm-hmm.
off-putting, and in others it's supposed to be like um I don't know, like I feel like I was really refreshed by this, like um this character like who sought sexual release like on her own terms,
Mm-hmm.
for the joy of like of experiencing like pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
I personally liked it. I fucking loved this film.
Because she started like exploring that through her own agency rather it
Yes.
being like forced upon her.
She was very much in control, and the Duncan Wedderburn character
Yeah.
goes insane because she spends the movie exercising her own agency and doing as she likes, and not playing the role of the fallen woman, the role of the woman who's in love with him, the
Mm-hmm.
role of the dutiful, not adhering to the expected script.
Yeah. Not being
He
submissive.
Yeah, and he becomes like an avatar for that part of the patriarchy that like falls apart the second you don't agree to its rules.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved it.
Yeah. I think that I saw a lot of that sentiment around the film, and I saw a lot of like my mutuals on TikTok and on Twitter praise the film highly. And a lot of people said
Mhm.
that this was like almost the movie for people who liked weird Barbie. So I kind of went
Mhm.
in with that in mind. And me personally, I always do enjoy coming of age movies. And because I already like Emma Stone and I already love Yorgos Lanthimos, I figured like when I go into this film, I'm going to enjoy it. And to my surprise, I got through the movie, and I think I got to the part where um, Abella meets Gerard Carmichael's character, and that's when I get to the point where like I don't know if I'm enjoying this movie, you know,
Mm.
because for me, one thing that I find that happens a lot with coming of age films for young women is that they come to the actualization of their womanhood through sex. And it's not that that is a bad thing. I just feel like it's something that is utilized a bit too much, I guess I should say. And for me, like to see like that this is a Yorgos Lanthimos film, this is a female led character, and he's done something like this before with like The Lobster and also The Favorite as well. So it's not out of the realm of his filmography. But I think that for me personally, I was looking for something else in the movie and I did not get that. And
Mhm.
I do find it derivative in the path of womanhood and actualization and a woman coming into her own that she must not rely on her sexuality, but like sexuality is such a big part of it that her like discovering herself and her masturbating is what she feels like a woman, you know. And I also had this critique with Rami season 1 because in Rami it follows his life. It's kind of like a mirror of Rami Youssef's life as like a Muslim
Mhm.
American. And there are 2 episodes in season 1 that focus on the actress who plays his sister and the actress who plays his mom. And both of those episodes, like his sister likes a white guy and wants to sleep with him. And his mom has a crush on somebody and wants to sleep with that man. And when she doesn't get to, she just sleeps with her husband. And I found it annoying that like, why is it that the only episodes you have is centered around these female characters in your show? The only desire they have is sex, you know, and they don't have
Mm.
any other desires outside of that. Like your sister is in medical school. We can't talk about her ambitions. Like that's your mom. And like it's not weird for moms to want to have sex. They want to have sex. That's fine. But why is it that your female character you only put her in a situation where like she is vying for that desire and not something else? So I think that's something that like I thought about when I was watching the film, and I think I was trying to have an open mind, you know, while watching the movie and be like, it's okay, it's
Mhm.
fine, just like try and see it from a different perspective. Like don't try to see it from your own experience only. But as someone who was like raised, I guess, very prudish, you know, and raised religious, um, to have to like watch films to understand certain parts of yourself, and a lot of films around coming of age for women do tend around sex and relationship and like romance. And as someone who is not like a huge participant in those kind of things, it's hard to find
Mhm.
things that you can relate to. So when weird Barbie movie came out, I'm like, okay, maybe she's a little quirky, maybe she's like into like weird stuff. And like I love that she loved reading. I love that she was introduced into socialism and Marxism. Like that's interesting,
Mhm.
that's really cool, it's amazing. But it got to the point near the end of the film where, you know, um Mark Ruffalo's character, Wetterberg, and Bella, they've lost all their money and she has to figure out a way to find more money. And she goes to the option of like the brothel. And
Mhm.
I'm watching the movie, I'm like, doesn't she have a stack from her dad? And in my head, I'm thinking, like, okay, I understand this is an exploration of yourself and womanhood and sexuality. You want to explore sex and like what is it like having sex with different men and like what they desire, what they look like, and like it's looking at that as experiment. But also in my head, I'm like, a lot of women turn to sex work when they have nowhere else to go. You obviously have the option of using the money that your father lent to you, but because Wetterberg took that money from her and basically ran off, she has no other option but to go to this brothel. And I understand, like, in the brothel, she also learns about, like, um, femininity and, like, presenting yourself and being a woman and, like, all those things. And that's where she meets one of my favorite characters in the movie who teaches her about socialism. And I think that's really great. And I was just watching the movie and I was just like, there was a different path that we could have gone down for her at this point in the film. And I felt like her exploring her sexuality as a way of her learning more about what it's like to be a woman, I felt like that was something that is done a lot. And I also feel like men, when they write stories about women and it's like a coming of age film, a film about actualization, they always turn to that because men can don't I don't know how else to say this. Men don't understand women except the fact that women want to have sex, because men want to have sex too, and they don't know what else women want. And if women want to have
Right.
sex and men want to have sex, then let's just explore sex, because sex is easy, and it sells. And I was trying to think, like, maybe this isn't what I'm seeing. But then I did watch a couple other TikToks and I saw that other people were seeing the same thing. And I was like, okay, thank God I'm not crazy. I'm not a prude. That's
Yeah,
just
that
what
was a
I
very
saw.
common it was a very common criticism. And I totally get that.
Yeah.
I will say like I don't um having kind of like gone back and watched it again, the sex the sex is the shiny thing that gets her to leave the house and begin on her journey. She, of course, she has a lot more sex as she goes. And again, like I get how like that many sex scenes in general can just be off-putting to some people, and people will be like, "It's not my thing. I don't want to see Emma Stone's tits that many times, no matter how pretty she is."
Yeah.
Totally get that. That is a taste thing. I do think sex is like the shiny thing that makes her leave her sex and mystery. She like wants to uh she wanted to see the world anyway. Duncan Wetterberg is offering her both of those things. He's like,
Mm-hmm.
I'll fuck you and I'll take you somewhere. And she's like, all right, this is like the shiny thing that's going to get me outside. Her self actualization really starts to begin on the boat when
Mm.
she starts to read and she discovers her mind and ideas. Like
Yeah.
she has, and she discovers that her passion for ideas is much is much stronger than her passion for sex. The There's a lot of needles that are I think very finely like threaded. Other people might disagree with me. One of those needles is Emma Stone's acting, because I personally I mean I don't suffer from any cognitive disabilities, but I think she managed to do the baby to adult like growth in a way that didn't really come across as like offensive.
Yeah.
I think other like if anybody watching this is like part of the community and has like cognitive disabilities and disagrees with me, please sound off and tell me I'm wrong. But
Uh-huh.
it felt to me like she had her work cut out for her, and I think she threaded that needle quite well. I honestly think the her Bella's entry into sex work is another area, because we've actually seen that scene so many times. The one where like the woman becomes a sex worker because she has to,
Yeah.
and she that first encounter, she's crying, and it's unbearable, and we as the audience are meant to weep for her, and then we get to see the montage of her having sex, and we get to see her slowly die inside, and I'm so fucking tired of that. What they do is subvert that entirely. The first sexual encounter she has, because she's like, wait, I can have sex and I can make money, cool.
Mm-hmm.
And then he thrusts 3 times, comes, and she has to stifle a laugh because she's like, that was it.
Mm-hmm.
And then she goes and tells Duncan Wetterberg, like, I stifled a laugh because it was so bad. So I
Yeah.
guess you're right. You are really good at sex. And then and then we get to see the montage of working as a sex worker, and the experiences are all over the place. Like some of
Mm-hmm.
them are not great, but she never like it never feels coerced. It feels like a job, which
Mm-hmm.
I think is what the movie specifically when she says the line like we are the means of our own means of production. The movie is using sex work like to be like, hey, this is just another way of like selling your body for like we're all selling our bodies as labor, um so it's just a job. And I like that it shows like the joys, and also the kind of like boredom and the negotiations for higher wages that come with that within the lens of like sex work. I like for a movie that I like immediately like my asshole clenched, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna watch a whole bunch of men try to take advantage of this woman for
Mm-hmm.
2 hours. I was really refreshed by like how not in danger I felt she was for
Mm-hmm.
that entire time, like
Yeah.
how capable I felt she was, and like how again, I was stressed out the first time I saw it, the second
Mm-hmm.
time not so much. But yeah, I would like I found that the movie very often approached these like very familiar tropes,
Mm-hmm.
and like some of them subverted, and then some of them maybe just like came at from like a different angle and
Right.
delved deeper in a way that I found was satisfying.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I understand why it's like not for I understand why every Yorgos Lanthimos movie is not for everyone, but
Yeah.
I understand why this one in particular sparked some discourse, you know?